Welcome to our first video covering new features in Mobile Entree 4. On the left-hand side of this video you should see bookmarks that you can use to kind of navigate around and see the new features. I would recommend watching all the way through for the first time just to get a good idea of all the new things that are available for you. And this is pretty much going to cover more end-user concepts and new features. We're not going to get into development with this video. That will be coming soon. And let's just dive right into it. So one of the first major upgrades from Mobile Entree 3 to Mobile Entree 4 is the UI. Both the configuration, Mobile Entree configuration screen that you can see here in the background, and the mobile user experience has been refreshed with brand new HTML markup as well as CSS. A lot of this makes it easier to customize and to rebrand, as well as facilitating some of the new technology that we're implementing with Mobile Entree 4. So kind of starting out with Mobile Entree configuration, one of the main things that you'll notice if you're familiar with the old configuration in Mobile Entree 3 and also in the 2.x version is that we've removed the accordion. This is kind of a big deal. A lot of people complained about it and we listened. So everything is now in tabs, so you can see all this information is easily navigated via tabs instead of those nasty collapsible accordion sections. One other new thing that we've added in the brand and footer section under global config is the ability to add your own custom CSS. Not really add, but more reference custom CSS. So you can take our CSS template from the default, pull it down, make changes, and put it anywhere in your SharePoint site. You can put it in a document library, you can put it in a site assets library, even in the images directory if you'd like, and then just put its URL into this custom CSS property, and that will load in and put in the different colors and the different look and feel based on the CSS that you provided. So as an end user, you now don't have to develop a theme in order to change the colors and change the look and feel. You can specify your brand header and your custom CSS all right here in Mobile Entree config as an end user. Another new feature in Mobile Entree configuration is that the application instances are all on the left rail. They are reorderable by this tab that's on the left here, and you just select those and it'll populate the right hand panel with the properties of that app. Another important thing to note is any custom toolparts from a mobile application. So if we take a look at the base plugin here, or the base application, it has two custom toolparts, the home screen and the base plugin config. And if you create your own custom mobile application with its own configuration toolpart, it will show up as its own tab. You can see this is a custom app called List Search app, and it has its own toolpart here in a tab. Let's now take a look at what the user will experience in Mobile Entree 4 when they come in on their smartphone. So you can see the UI is definitely different from 3.0. Buttons are a little bit bigger. The CSS is much easier to customize because it's simpler. The HTML markup is much more concise and consistent across controls. One of the new features that we have in Mobile Entree 4 is we support CSS animations, and we have a number of them that you can use in your custom applications. Out of the box, with our base application, it will do slide animations for things like navigating through lists. One of the other new features is the action tray. This is a much bigger deal than what I'm going to be talking about right now. It is a brand new integration point for any contextual actions that a developer wants to put into any application, including our out-of-the-box base application. So you can see here in the action tray, when I'm looking at a discussion board, I'm able to create a new discussion. If I navigate to an actual post and I open the action tray, I now have a reply and an edit. Again, CSS animations, and an action tray on the context menu. One of the other new features is a calendar view. This is definitely one of our bigger asks that we've gotten from partners and customers, and it works very simply like a calendar should. It hooks up to any list that has a calendar view and allows you to browse that calendar view and the items within it. Now let's take a look at an iPad. I'm using a product called Air Server. Allows my iPad to connect directly to my desktop and display its screen. So from the iPad, let's switch back over to the calendar to show you some of the new controls that are iOS specific. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this item. In my context menu, or action tray rather, I'm going to hit Edit. CSS animation, you'll see it opens up in the context menu. And you can see we now have iOS controls for setting things like date and time. Saving that back, you'll see that we're on June 16th, 17th is when I saved it, and there it shows up in the calendar. One of the other cool new features, which out of the box you will only notice in the reporting mechanisms of Mobile Entree, but custom application developers can take advantage of this, is list groups can now be collapsible. So I'm going to open up a dashboard here from Excel. And you'll see when I open up this dashboard, each section is put into a collapsible group. This can be very helpful if you have a number of sections in your Excel dashboards, as well as when you are developing custom applications, you can now take advantage of this out of the box. Another capability that we've added to Mobile Entree 4 is out-of-the-box integration with Infopath Form Services, and basically the ability for Mobile Entree to work in harmony with Form Server. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a form library with an Infopath form that is available to be created and stored in this form library. So you can see in here, when we look, we can see some properties that have been promoted from the Infopath document. If we click on that document, it actually goes to Form Server. Mobile Entree will ignore it, ignore the request and not redirect them to a mobile view, and allow them to fill out the document. I'm not going to make any changes here, so I'm just going to close it. And I'm going to go back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new form. So I have a content type called PO request. In this scenario, it's a very, very simple purchase order. I'm going to change my date. And I'm going to add a couple of line items. Okay, so now I have all of my line items created in my purchase order. I'm going to go ahead and save it. And this is all through out-of-the-box SharePoint 2010 Form Services. And we're done. It's been saved. Go ahead and close it. And now we can see in the purchase orders library, we can see the document that I just created and the properties that were promoted out of that Infopath document, being the SKUs that were entered on those line items and the total cost. Another cool new feature in Mobile Entree 4 is the ability to start workflows from the mobile device. So I created this purchase order and I want to send it off to be approved. So I have a very simple purchase order approval workflow that was created in SharePoint Designer. I'm going to go ahead and start it from the action tray. So you'll see a couple of things here. One thing to note is the status property is basically the place that I'm going to update once the approval happens. We can see the workflow that's in progress, and then we also give a link to the actual workflow task that can approve this document. If we take a look at our task list, we can see the actual approval item, or we can go back to purchase orders, the actual item, and we can open up that task straight from there, set our approval, we won't enter any comments, and hit OK. That fires back, it still says pending, now it says approved and completed. So the big news with MobileEntrée 4 and Business Intelligence is the addition of performance point filters to the mobile dashboards. So performance point filters are, again, kind of like calendar view. This is one of those things that we were asked many times by both customers and partners if and when we would support performance point filters. So a performance point filter in its very simplest form is the ability to have a drop down of information where you can click it and it affects the content that's on the screen. So in this case we have a scorecard here and a report that is affected by the country that's selected in the country filter. In MobileEntrée config, when you're configuring a performance point mobile dashboard, we now have a mobile filters section where you're able to add a performance point services filter. Here you can see in our filters section we do have the country filter added, and then we have our scorecard and report, the same that you saw up in the performance point dashboard, added to our mobile dashboard. So let's bring up the iPad again. That application down here is this filterable data app. You can see this should look fairly familiar with how performance point mobile dashboards work in MobileEntrée, is the ability to click on the item on the left and it loads on the right. We now have a new portion over here on the left hand side where it allows you to change your filters. So we have that country filter loaded in here. Let's go ahead and choose the US and hit apply. You'll see it affects the right hand side there, and it will continue to persist as you're navigating through the dashboard. So you see United States is affected up there in the scorecard. I can change it back. Switzerland. And that persists across. Now on the phone, it's similar. I open it up, I have the ability to change my initial filter. Let's go with Italy. Once I'm inside an item, I now have the filters in my action tray where I can change Japan. See that reflected here. If I go back, open up the product report, we're still on Japan, and I can filter it again. So to end this, I want to kind of discuss the action tray and show some of the art of the possible, if you will, in what it can do and how it can be leveraged to extend functionality into what MobileEntrée provides out of the box very easily. So the first one I'm going to show you is in this calendar view, we have a append-only comments field, and MobileEntrée out of the box doesn't support displaying all of the comments that have been appended in that field. So it's a very simple idea, and you want to be able to integrate with the MobileEntrée out-of-the-box application and provide access to those comments without having to rewrite the entire thing. That's where the action tray comes into play. So by simply creating a very simple action, you can provide the access to those append-only comments contextually when you're looking at an item. So you can see this here. This is displaying the comments that have been made on that item as users have edited it. So I'll show you really quick. Let me go ahead and edit this item. I'll add some comments. I'll save it. Go back up and click on our custom action, and we'll see that it's pulling those in. So the idea here is in your Visual Studio project that has your custom action in it, Mobile Entree is going to send you some context that you can use to pull out information and display it to the user in this manner, using the context menu, or loading your own interface if you would like. The next example that I'm going to show you is a bit more advanced, and I'm going to show you a way that you can work around being able to save documents from a cloud source back to SharePoint using the action tray. First, I need to load up my iPad onto the screen. There it is. Alright, so this action, we're calling it the Cloud Sync action. It'll show up on any document library under any document. You'll see if we look in the action tray of this US Constitution, we have it here, Cloud Sync. If we go into our reports and we're looking at an Excel document, we have to look at the properties of the document to get the action tray. You'll see that the Cloud Sync's there. So contextually, this action tray item knows to put itself into the action tray of any document. So we're going to go ahead and open up the Constitution, open up our action tray, and click the Cloud Sync button. So there's two steps in this. It's fairly raw because it's a custom action. We spent most of the time just getting the functionality right and not the user experience. So it's not super intuitive, but the idea is here, and it can definitely be taken a number of directions. So request authorization is the first thing we got to do. We have to authorize with Dropbox. This is just using standard OAuth authorization. So I'm already logged into Dropbox. I'm going to go ahead and hit allow. And now I can go back to my Mobile Entree. Now I'm supposed to hit request access. That uses my authorization token to request access to Dropbox. It now has connected, and I can now open up the Cloud Sync window again and be able to sync this document back and forth from Dropbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send the document. You can see that the document has been sent. I can open up Docs to Go, which has a connection to Dropbox. And this is my root Dropbox. If I go into Apps, you'll see that the ME Doc Sync app was created. Here's my server name. Here's my document library that I'm syncing from. And here's the US Constitution. So let's go ahead and add this change with an exclamation point. Save those changes. It's going to ask me if I want to sync back up to Dropbox. I'm going to hit yes. So now I've edited that document and it's back up at Dropbox. Now I can go back to Safari. In my context menu where I sent the document, I'm going to go ahead and retrieve the document because now it's been changed on Dropbox and I want to get those changes back down. You can see now that the document has been retrieved. I can close this. And if I click on this, it'll just open in Safari, and you'll notice that the change has been made. So I hope this gives you a good idea of the power of the action tray and a lot of the different things that you can do with it. I showed you something very simple, and then I showed you something fairly complex. And really, it's going to become a widely used integration point for Mobile Entree, and we encourage you to take that step and crack open the new Visual Studio extensions and the SDK and our forthcoming sample projects to really learn how you can take advantage of it.